welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and my guest today is Cara Seekings, and our topic of the day is stress-free gift giving.
Good morning, Gail.
Good morning. Thanks for coming on again.
It's my pleasure.
You look so Christmassy with your red clothing and your Santa Claus earrings.
But one of the worst stress holidays of the year. Almost more stressful because of the added gift giving than even Thanksgiving, where, of course, there's
too much food.
Food preparation, and more food preparation.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, we know, Gail, that stress is unavoidable in life. I mean, that's just fact. But it increases by tenfold.
For Christmas.
For Christmas. There are those organized get-togethers where you feel like, you know, you should take a little something. And then there are those gift exchanges with someone you hardly know. For example, if you're still employed and have a coworker, I dread having to buy a gift for a coworker. No matter how much I like them, I really don't know anything about them outside the office space. So that makes it stressful. Then there's making time for family you haven't seen nearly often enough the rest of the year, or in some cases, way too often all year long. And then you take all of this and you add it to your normal daily stuff. So it's not hard to understand why people get wildly stressed out over the holidays. Someone said to me recently, the greatest gift you can give is the gift of kindness, which is probably one of the fewest given gifts at the holidays. I'm usually pretty laid back and placid, but I find my voice rising for no particular reason, just because I'm reacting. I'm reacting to the noise around me. I'm reacting to the environmental stressors. And then you have to shop for people like best friends who you really want to do something special for. Maybe get a niche gift, one of those things that really speaks to them. Gail was just telling me about a great gift she got for her birthday. You're on, my dear.
Oh, okay. My birthday was in September. I turned 70, by the way. Anyways, my husband went to a lot of trouble to get my birthday present because he was looking for something very specific. And what that is something that's becoming very popular among us people who are vegan. And it's one of these machines that's specially made to make ice cream out of frozen bananas, a little on the overly ripe side before you put them in the freezer. That way it ensures that they're sweet enough to taste like you're eating ice cream without adding any sugar or any other kind of sweeteners to it. And in fact, when we've thrown blueberries from the freezer in with them, those bananas are sweet enough. Even though berries tend to lose a lot of their flavor after they go in the freezer, the bananas, the sweet bananas, actually sweeten up the blueberries enough that the blueberry banana ice cream is very sweet, like ice cream. And another thing we tried was you're supposed to put the frozen bananas out for a certain amount of minutes before you, to slightly thaw. Otherwise they're too hard for the machine. And then another thing, there's lots of different recipes that come with the machine, and we sprinkled some cocoa powder on it to make chocolate ice cream. And you know, it tasted perfectly sweet like chocolate. Ice cream with no sweetener of any kind added. But he went to a lot of trouble to get that. He asked somebody who has one where he could get them, and they told him he could get them at should be able to get them at either Wegmans or Home Depot. Well, he went to both of those places, and nobody had one. So he wound up going on the internet and ordering one. He managed to find one at Amazon.
I think that's great.
Well, his sister, who lives in Florida, works at Amazon, and I was telling her about it, and she said, "Oh, she goes, we sold a lot of those just before Christmas last year." So a lot of people were wanting those, but I think it's really nice because sugar is supposed to be bad for your health, and so are artificial sweeteners
Right.
and things. So I think it's really nice that you can somehow make ice cream that's perfectly sweet without any sweetener.
And tasteful.
And tasteful, yes.
So often when you get the vegetarian, vegan-y kinds of ice cream that the stores sell,
Well, they have a lot of sugar.
well, and they taste strange. It isn't so much the physical taste, but the mouth feel.
Oh.
I think for a lot of people, things like ice cream have a very particular mouth feel, and if it's not there, then it's not tasty. It's not,
I've never really been much of an ice cream eater.
I wish I could say that.
I don't know. I guess it does make your mouth feel funny to have something ice cold in it,
Well, and there's another, many of the commercial produced ice creams, whatever they put in to mimic the butter fat, I don't want to feel like I have grease left in my mouth.
Oh, yeah.
That's, so to be able to make it out of fresh fruit or that's been frozen, et cetera, that's fabulous. And I could just taste it with a little coconut flake added in.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's another thing you're supposed to be able to put in is some coconut.
Love that kind of thing. Well, maybe we can persuade you next spring to bring in your ice cream maker, and you and I will have an ice cream party with it.
While we're on television.
On TV,
Well,
yes.
you do realize that'll make the viewing audience jealous, don't you?
Of course it will, and that's the point. I have to say, too, Gail and I are both 70, and we look pretty fabulous for 70. I'd like to tell you, in my case, it's good care. It's more like longevity in my family. But in Gail's case, as a vegan, believe me, it's good care. But back to stress.
Well, even all of my relatives, like my aunts, my father's sisters, all lived to be in their 90s on the standard American diet. So just think how old they could have lived to be
If they'd been
on a plant-based, whole foods plant-based diet.
Right,
You know,
right.
You hear about that about certain cultures over the years.
many who have people who are in their hundreds, and not in their hundreds and just existing, but in their hundreds and still active.
Right.
My goal is to live to 90. But only if I can still maintain a semblance of what I know of as my life, not if I'm incapacitated, whether it's terribly physically or terribly mentally. But that's my interest in stress, honestly, is because stress kills us.
Oh, yeah.
It isn't the stressors that happen to us, it's how we react. It's how we react. And that's a choice, folks. That really is a choice. One of the greatest things I like to teach people as a stress strategy, and we've talked about it before, is heart coherence breathing. Now, I do this when I teach it only because it helps me focus. This is not a necessity. But I will put my hands or my fingertips against my heart. I quiet myself and I feel my heartbeat. And then I sync my breathing to my heartbeat.
Oh.
Now, you can't be chaotic and breathe deliberately. You have to give one or the other up. So when I do this and I feel that little bit of pressure, it reminds me that I want to breathe in through my nose, out through my mouth, and I want to time it to my heartbeat. And the more I focus on that, the calmer things get. Because again, I'm focused, I'm one of those people who has a very short neck, and if I'm stressed, I have no neck. Because my shoulders raise right up to my ears.
Oh.
I tell people all the time, I can't wear a turtleneck shirt because it becomes a turtle ear immediately. I have tried and tried and tried. I've even tried using one of the bags with husk that you put in the microwave and heat. It's like a neck thing.
Oh,
and
those
I
things.
will try
Yeah,
the
yeah.
weight of it just to keep my shoulders down, because that's a really bad habit, but one I've not been able to break. I think in my case it's going to take cement blocks.
Yeah, yoga exercises help a lot.
Yes.
With that, letting go of the tension.
Absolutely. One of the other things I like to say to people, when you're feeling stressed, you need to know why. But you can't do that and react. So you have to take a step back, give up the reaction, and ask yourself literally, why is this bothering me? It's like my other question in life is, what joy will this bring? Before I say yes to something. Why is this bothering me? Why am I taking something personally? And so it's helpful for me to ask that why question. Do I always have an answer? Sometimes not. But the thing it does is stop me from reacting. It makes me think about what I'm doing instead of just knee-jerk feeling. You know, when we feel stress, it's a sign that something is not right or is out of sorts. But it isn't the answer to it being not right or out of sorts. We have to think about that. Gift giving can be stressful, but it usually is not the real problem. What actually happens is, under the joy that the holiday season is decorated with, many of us feel pain, sadness, anger. Perhaps we're alone. Perhaps we're not alone and wish we were. Perhaps we're overly... I like to think of myself as a porcupine at the holiday. My quills are just a quivering, just waiting for a chance to let go. Now, if I feel stress, I need to bring that quill reaction down a bit and ask why. What has me all, you know, and why I'm reacting that way. I know this is advice that every magazine in the earth gives, but it's great advice. Create a spending plan. Bring order to chaos. Make a list of every single person that you feel you have to gift. And then go back through that list with a realistic eye and say, why do I have to gift? And assign a dollar amount. For some people, gifting is not about what they get. It's the getting. It's the joy. A lovely card can bring someone much joy. You and I have again talked before about consumable, particularly at my age. I need another thing. I mean, I don't. And when I think about that, I think there are so many other small delights that I would love to have. You know, stop at the gluten-free bakery in my case. Jess knows what I like there. You know, that would be a great treat rather than a bottle of cologne, which I don't wear.
Right.
That kind of thing.
As the years have gone on, I've gotten to where, after having accumulating a lifetime of stuff, I've gotten to the point where a great gift for me is something I'm going to use up that's not going to last forever.
Love those consumables. Love them.
You know, my father, when my father died, it was in the month of December, and in fact, his funeral was exactly 1 week before Christmas.
That's so odd because my father died in December.
Oh, did he?
And my husband died the day after Christmas.
Oh.
So that's an added stress for us, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you wind up not enjoying the holiday, and it's an interruption in getting around to doing whatever it was you wanted to do for everybody else for Christmas. But anyways, I remember that particular year after Christmas, my son was the one that took down the Christmas tree for me, and he put it up for me the following year. And anyways, I remember the following year when I was the one taking the Christmas tree down and putting the decorations away. And in with the box the decorations were getting put into was a piece of wrapping paper that said Merry Christmas for Mom and Dad on the gift tag. I'll tell you, I broke down and cried and could not stop. It was like it was like incredible, you know. I just could not stop all of a sudden, and well, I never really put up a Christmas tree again after that. All of these years, I had one of those little Christmas tree or little trees that looks like a Christmas tree, but they don't get big, so you can keep them in your house. I had that for a few years, and somehow when I had to be away one year for a month, it wasn't getting watered and everything, and so that kind of died by the end of that winter. So then we went on. Now I have a ceramic Christmas tree that somebody had, who was helping me take care of my mother, had made for my mother. Just a little ceramic Christmas tree like this, and it's really cute. So we just have that as our Christmas tree now. So.
I have a metal one. Not big metal. I have one that sits on a tabletop that always reminds me of a Dr. Seuss kind of tree.
Oh, yeah.
And it's metal, and that suffices fine for my needs now, although my grandchildren think it's a tragedy, but I personally like it. You know, one of the other issues that happens at Christmas time is that we tend to go into financial debt. Which of course then adds to our everyday stress, in and out, in and out. Remember that financial pressure is largely self-induced. That said, commit to a spending plan that won't add to your pressure of your season, because when we spend all that money on gifts and we're stressed out about it, we lose both ways then. And so that's a hard thing. But let's talk about actual gifts. Again, I mentioned consumables, homemade. If you're a fabulous baker, of course I wouldn't, I always say this to people, because I'm gluten-free, I wouldn't want you to bake for me because I would hate to have you wasted on me. But I've had several people who have really made an effort to do gluten-free because they know I can't have things. But you know, if particularly a couple or someone who's alone, am I going to bake 6 dozen cookies for myself? Not and survive it, you know. So the gift of something edible is always appreciated if you consider folks' taste. If you're artistic, consider doing a painting or drawing and have it framed for someone. I mean, that would be a very special thing to me. Be creative. It's the thought that counts. We forget that, we forget that, we forget that. We think it has to be more, bigger, better. Please, I don't have room for more, bigger, better, you know.
Right.
Be creative. Create small holiday ornaments that can be easily put away when the holiday is over. Please don't give me something that weighs 12 pounds, because what am I going to do with it? You know, cater dinner once a month for someone. Bring it in. Fruit of the Month Club. Now, people laugh when I say that, but that's a favorite of mine, because often I get fruit in grades that I would not, you know, I'm a misfits fruit person. I don't particularly care that it's not shiny or whatever. I care that it's edible and ripe. So, but I get often quality that I wouldn't maybe buy, and in a diversity of fruits. I think that's a great gift. Special delivery favorites. One of the greatest gifts I ever received back in my pescatarian, before my vegetarian days, a person knocked on the door and handed me a box and said, "Be careful of the whatever was in it." And I thought, I didn't order anything. There were 2 of the most beautiful lobster tails. Now, I know to you that wouldn't be appealing, but in my pescatarian days, that was a real treat. And again, it was probably a little beyond my own budget. It was a great gift. Books. I have found that even if you gift a book to someone who isn't a reader, if you pay attention to their interests, maybe they have a hobby or a magazine on that hobby. I belong to this group of women who we pass our magazines around. So find out what we already subscribe to if you're getting one of us a subscription, because you're getting it for all of us.
Yeah, that's the thing with a book too. You want to make sure it's a book that they haven't already bought for themselves or something. I like to go to used book sales.
Me too.
At the local libraries, and I quite often will run across books at these used book sales that are just the perfect thing for certain people. And you'd be surprised at how many people have said to me, "Oh, thank you for that book. I really enjoyed reading that." Or if it's a book describing how to do something, you know, I'm really enjoying, you know, making things,
learning new things,
you know, out of this book. I mean, some books are reference books that are like timeless, you know. I mean, like, for instance, like maybe a book on herbs or something, you know, that people can refer to, you know, when they have certain symptoms or something.
Yeah, rosemary is rosemary is rosemary. So whether the book was published 40 years ago or 2 weeks ago, chances are the information on rosemary or garlic are pretty much the same. We may have some new modern additions, but it's pretty much the same. The other book thing, one of the nicest gifts I received years ago, I was probably in my 30s, and we were talking about little golden books from our past. And I said, you know, I have looked for years for a copy of Pantaloon, because Pantaloon was my favorite. Pantaloon was a French poodle who had a bakery.
Okay.
In the Little Golden Book series. And I said, Pantaloon and Saggy Baggy Elephant were my 2 favorite golden books as a child. And from someone who was nearly a stranger, an acquaintance, said, "I overheard you say this." And I happened upon a Golden Book treasury that someone was selling off, and I purchased these 2 books. And I said, well, gee, let me pay you for them. Absolutely not. It's just a gift. So I now own Saggy Bag Elephant and Pantaloon in 1950-51 editions.
Oh.
So they're fabulous. It was a great gift. You know, and I'm also a big donations person, okay? I'm always happy if I can do something for you. And when people offer to pay me, my standard kind of line is, make a donation in my name to a charity that you would like to donate to. People are glad to do that. There is nowhere in our community that doesn't need either financial help, charitable giving, time giving, fundraising. So you can always give a gift, whether it's money, time, in someone else's name. You can always do that. Also consider other resources that support charities. I have 4 particular ones I like. Gifts Without Guilt, Meaningful Holiday Gifts from Save the Children, Gifts for a Good Cause, and the Heifer Project. And people often find it quite amusing that I, the vegetarian, support the Heifer Project. But it isn't only cows, folks. And it isn't, you know, I mean, they do seeds, they do a lot of other things, and you choose the gift. So those kind of things give us a chance to give pretty stresslessly. I can do that giving in my jammies at home at midnight. The other thing I find that people always like, gift cards are always the right color, always the right amount, always the right fit. And if you carefully look, you can find some very reasonable gift card sites. You just, of course, want to read the fine print to make sure they don't expire or aren't expired or have some other crazy stipulation that they're worth $30, you're paying $10, but you can only use them in Wisconsin. I mean, you want to read that fine print.
Speaking of gift cards, I make miniature gift boxes out of used greeting cards.
Nice.
And people get them from me to give gift cards in.
That's lovely.
Because they're a nice size, you know.
I'll have to bring you my greeting cards this year. Because I usually have we have a card wreath, and that holds the cards. But then, when the season is over, I'm loath to throw them out because some of them are really lovely.
Yeah.
And they're all meaningful. But I don't do anything. My mother used to do gift tags.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me they make gift tags out of used greeting cards, but people really love those boxes.
I bet you they sound fabulous. I will bring you my cards.
The next time you're going to be on the program, I'll bring some of them to show to you.
Terrific. I would love that.
So
actually, and that's the other thing, you know, I find that if I'm limited in funds, and of course you mostly am, but if I'm limited in funds and I give something that shows I thought about this person, now I would be much more comfortable, quite honestly, recycling a gift card that was a gift box, even with a monetary gift in it. Because I always hate sticking money in an envelope. It just doesn't have the same feeling to it.
Right.
So.
And there's lots of different small things that you can put inside of a little box like that too.
That's great. Do bring them. I will love to see them, and I will gift you with cards. The other thing I think that we most commonly don't think about is making a holiday gift coupon book. My kids used to do this when they were little.
Oh, a coupon book.
Now you can go online, of course, and print out gift coupons that you can decorate any way you want. We often used holiday cards, folded them up, and then used them as the outside of a holiday gift book. We would include things like, the kids would do things like cook dinner once a month, give hugs, movie and popcorn, even if it meant a movie at home on TV, and the kids made the popcorn. Mm-hmm. As an adult, I frequently will give concert or play tickets. Now, I have to tell you, again, I have a limited budget. I have seen some of the best high school productions of plays, high school concerts, where I've taken particularly a friend who no longer drives, and I will give her a number of coupons for rides.
Oh,
but I also
okay.
will include some for a concert or and she's well aware that these are high school productions. She gets out, we have a nice time, she doesn't have to drive in the dark. I take her home and wait till she's safely in the door. It's a great gift. And very honestly, Gail, I know you're aware that many times high school productions are not expensive.
No, no.
And it's a great evening out, and you support your community, which of course I'm a big fan of. And I've met some of the nicest people who I haven't seen in ages at these things, who have kids in the system or whatever. And the other thing I like to include in those is like dog walking if you're able.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or pet sitting.
I actually do that. Pet sit for people. Some of my neighbors, you know, when they have to go away on a vacation for a week or something. The crew would like me to ask you something, and I was wanted to bring it up also. It says, how do you not stress out about all of the people you have to get things for, and remembering to get for all of the people on your list? And I have to say, before myself and my family simplified how we celebrated Christmas, I remember being so busy with all of it that I would misplace things and then get stressed out because I misplaced the stuff that I'd already, you know, gotten and everything. I do know if you start early, like in the summer months, there's arts and craft shows all over
And
the
there are
place.
tons of sales. I'm a firm believer. The joke at my house always was, now you remember I have 6 children, so the joke at my house,
really? Wow.
The joke at my house always was that mother started her list the day of New Year's. But it wasn't a joke, because I really did. I tried to get my list down. We also simplified as the kids grew older. For example, Phil and I used to say to the kids, Dad and I don't need another thing. Please gift your own kids. You know, or we would do an adult name tag drawing, and we would do that. I used to host a Memorial Day picnic every year. And at the picnic, we would make gift tags, and we would pull names. And we would set a very reasonable dollar amount, and as the thing got more people even, we then took it to homemade. It had to be a homemade gift or a handmade gift.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, those are really appreciated. If you have really good, if you're very talented artistically, you can make really beautiful things to give to people. I'm thinking here, I'm thinking that one way to, like the guy's question here, you can make a list of the people on your, the ones that you know you really should get something for, you can make a list, and when you get that person's gift, write it down next to the person's name.
I keep a file on my phone. Now, I used to keep the file on paper, but now that I've gotten a little bit smarter than my phone, not a lot, I keep it in the notes section of my phone. I have a list, and as soon as I buy a gift, I not only write down the gift by the person's name, but I write which of my storage totes I have put it in.
Oh, you write down where,
I do.
where
I
you
have.
it.
I have.
And these are techniques to reduce stress.
I have
Yes.
3 colored storage totes, different colors. And I start to fill one, but then I finally got to the point where I thought, okay, one is family, one is friends, and one is others. And so then I marked down on my list, on my little phone, the person's name, the gift, and the color of the tote.
Where it is.
And
where
the
it
color
is,
of the tote,
where it
because
is.
I also am a put it away securely so I don't lose it, and of course never find it again. So this works out really well for me. 3 totes stack up nicely and don't take up a ton of space. If you have less people to give for, fabulous, and use less totes. But a friend of mine years ago used to put her kids' stuff, she'd hide it in a garbage bag. And she knew, because she had a special marking on it, that it was gifts. But don't you know, one year the garbage bag got thrown out. Yep, full of gifts.
Oh, no.
And so her friends held a gift-giving party for her children because we felt terrible for her. And it was a total accident, completely no malicious intent, no nothing, it just happened. But that's why I use totes, because I'm never confused by totes.
Well, yeah, there was, my sister and her family usually come from out of state for a visit during the summer, and they'll buy the gifts, the Christmas gifts for us ahead of time. Well, one year they happened to come for their visit right at the time my mother was about to pass away. And they brought the gifts, and then we handed the bag of gifts from them to those of us that live around here to my son, and told him to take them over to his house and to keep them until Christmas. Well, guess what? That bag full of gifts went missing. We never did know what happened to it. He may have accidentally, or without thinking about it, maybe he was taking out some trash from her apartment or something, and just threw everything he had with him in the dumpster outside the apartment building or something. We never did know. We never could find them at his house. So,
wow.
You know, we just never ever found them. So that was a similar experience to the person that you were just talking about. But it's a stressful time when you have a family member who is ready to pass away. It's not a time when you're going to be, you know, thinking clearly.
No, and it's often when we're dealing with the stress of the loved ones passing, other normal activities kind of just fade into the routine of the background. So even if we do them, we don't remember that we did them, or we don't remember the minute details, like taking out the trash is a pretty normal thing. And we just don't remember the minutia of the surrounding it. And it can be, but again, remember, stress is not what happens to us. It's how we react to it.
Yeah, to the situations that come up. Yeah. So I guess, you know, my suggestion for people for decreasing stress at the holidays is to simplify their Christmas. I remember Colleen Vanderzijden and I were doing a program on Fresh Perspectives one time, and she was talking about how people can change that. I mean, you don't have to put up all of those decorations. You don't have to bake several kinds of Christmas cookies. Just simplify things. I'm sitting here sounding like Henry David Thoreau in his book Walden.
But who better?
He
Who
made,
better?
the man made a lot of sense. You know, he said, don't own more than such and such an amount of furniture. You know, everything you've got to take care of. And, you know, so the man made a lot of sense.
Well, and our possessions make us poor. Mm-hmm. Because of Henry David Thoreau's ideas that, in fact, we do have to take care of them. We do have to buy special products for them. You know, for example, I don't know what you use to polish wood. I gave up polishing wood, but those people who do it then must go out and buy a special wood polish product, mm-hmm. or a dusting spray. Mm-hmm. You know, I just the other day I bought a pillow on a favorite chair that is from the Simplicity Pattern collection, mm-hmm. and the pillow says, "You're not fooling me with that. I already cleaned house once." And I thought, yeah,
that's cute.
That describes Cara Seekings, okay? Mm-hmm. But the idea of simplicity is such a potent, powerful freedom giver. Mm-hmm. The less attachment, Buddha mm-hmm. says that all suffering is based on attachment. Mm-hmm. The less attachment we have to things, and the less we have to be attached to. One of the things I look around at when I think about prioritizing things I really care about, traditions, etc., it has to really be a meaningful tradition for me to keep it. I'm the 13-month person. If I haven't touched something in 13 months, out it goes. Mm-hmm. I would prefer to give it freely from my heart and let somebody else use it mm-hmm. than me store
Yeah,
it.
I've gotten to be more and more like that as I've been growing older. You know, like if I have something that I never use, but I know that somebody else would donate it. A lot of thrift stores actually use the money they make off of the things they sell to serve a purpose.
Absolutely.
Like some sort of a charity or something. Like you've got the Thrifty Kitty over in Westfield.
I have a lovely cat who was a Thrifty Kitty boy.
From the one in Westfield?
Yep.
We have 2 cats that came from the Thrifty Kitty. And the things that you buy, that people buy in the thrift store, they support the cats that are in the shelter.
I think it's a fabulous thing.
And then there's a thrift store at the Outreach Center here in Mayville, and that goes towards supporting like their food pantry mm-hmm. and like mm-hmm. that, and stuff that they've had around for a long time that hasn't sold. They donate that to when the people come around to get clothing and household goods. Right. They put that out for like Vietnam veterans.
Sure.
And like that. So.
Well, and I always believe, you know, and as I say, I really made the 13-month rule, and this will give everybody a giggle. I own an electric canner, and you see, if I made it less than 13 months, then I wouldn't use my electric canner enough to keep it.
Oh.
I have 2 dehydrators and an electric canner.
Instead of 12 months.
Right,
That's why
right.
you do
13, just in case the harvest is late or whatever. But yeah, I find that I can give something to charity. I have the joy of giving, but I know it's multiplied. And that's a really good thing for me. It makes me feel rich in many ways. And it also is, I recently was walking down the street and I saw someone wearing something that I knew had been mine.
Oh, really?
Because I had done some custom embroider on it.
Oh, and you know there couldn't be a...
No, it would be very unlikely that anybody else embroiders as poorly as I do. But I made it a point, I never said anything to this person about having been the donor. But what I did say is, you know, you look terrific. It was actually a jacket that I had done custom felting on, etc. I said, you look terrific. And she said to me, she turned around and said, thank you. She said, I got this from such and such a thrift shop for practically nothing. I said, well, I am glad because you picked a perfect jacket. And I just dropped it at. She doesn't need to know it came from me. Who cares? But so I got the joy of giving, not once, but twice, because I actually got to see someone enjoying it and wearing it. And okay, that's a fabulous thing, you know. If I'm done with something, when Phil was still alive, my late husband, we did several doll houses for commissions. And after he was diagnosed with lung cancer, he said to me, I would like us to start a humongous 13-room Victorian dollhouse. And, you know, again, I'm a space minimizer too. So we had already downsized from 6 kids, and I thought, what are we going to do with this? And so I said to him, you know, Phil, this just gives me another house to clean, you know. And he said, no, when I'm gone, I want you to donate it to the American Cancer Society as a raffle. I said, I will do that. And they made a fair amount of money from it. Almost $9,000 on a raffle, and it was gorgeous. It even had a quilt frame with a little quilt on it. And, you know, and I have always enjoyed doing miniature work, and so that was fun for me. I even made lobsters in a little pan being served, and we had a dining room table and salad in a bowl, and some of the things I bought, but some of them I made as well. And I had such fun doing it. And it was, again, such a pleasure to donate it. And someone else made some money from it and continued their good work. And that's why I never object to gifting in my name.
Yeah, you know, we have a niece, and she and her husband were not able to have children. So they adopted a little girl from Russia when she was 6 years old. She's 19 now and in her first year of college. But my husband had this trunk. He thought that that's what he gave her for a graduation from high school gift, was that trunk from, it was, gosh, like a great grandmother of his or something.
Fabulous.
I mean, it had come over from Sweden with her when she moved to the United States from Sweden, you know, way over 100 years ago. And you know, that girl was just deeply touched.
Well, what a sense of belonging it must have given her as well.
Yeah, well, knowing that she's adopted.
Part of the family and tradition. That's one of the nicest things, I think, about tradition is not so much the performance of the tradition, but the honoring of the people involved. That will now always be great, 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 great aunt someone's trunk, or however many grates it is. I mean, in her eyes, what a sense of belonging. I just think that's wonderful. One of the gifts I did for my daughter-in-laws one year was to copy favorite family recipes.
Oh, yeah.
For them, just because, you know, they come from a family with their own recipes, etc. But
I'm afraid I'm not very sentimentally attached to family recipes on account of having become.
That's that vegan in you.
Yeah,
we hear you.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. When it comes to family recipes handed down, I'm afraid I'm the beginning of the line.
Well, but that's okay too. you know.
So yeah, I think that a lot of people are sentimentally attached to the foods they grew up on.
Sure.
But,
I still make colcannon every year at St. Patrick's Day. Every single year we have colcannon. We also have bangers and onion and etc. Ale bangers at my house. Now, I don't eat them, but I make them because of the tradition. Colcannon I could eat my weight in, which isn't pretty.
Yeah. So, anyways, basically, that's the basic advice, I think, is to simplify your holiday gift giving.
Give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Give a gift to you.
Right. And as far as gifting other people goes, simplify it.
And be sane.
Keep it down to a small amount of money. Keep the list. Write down when you buy something and where you
put it.
Handmade
is always lovely and consumable, particularly I think for those of us who, let's just say, are over 45. Consumable becomes a really important thing, whether it's consumable because we eat it or it's consumable because it has a short useful life, etc. You know, I love flowers and plants. Now I prefer succulents because I don't have green thumbs. But give me a lovely succulent. Give me a pot of lavender. You know, anything like that. Grow an herb in a pot for me. I'm perfectly happy with basil in a pot.
But you don't like cilantro, right?
I don't do cilantro, no.
That's one of my favorites.
No cilantro. And oddly, I mean, I can, in my electric canner, tomatillos and tomatoes combined, and I do one batch with Mexican seasonings, like cumin and chili and no cilantro. And I do the other batch with Italian seasonings. And I love to snip them fresh. But again, folks, remember the rule, a teaspoon of fresh equals a quarter teaspoon of dried.
Oh, right. Because when they get dried, the flavor gets more concentrated.
Absolutely, and you can do yourself in.
That's something you could get for somebody is some dried herbs, that they are going to use.
Well, I always, herbally, I always say to people, don't wait for the expiration on the herb. If you can lick your fingertip, put a little bit of the herb on it, and you notice a diminishment in the taste, it's time to replace that herb. Herbs get, they get stale. They do. They lose their potency. If I have to move beyond a quarter of a teaspoon of a dried herb, it's probably time for me to throw it out. And of course, one of the easiest things to do is freeze in ice cube trays fresh herbs. You put the herb in the ice cube tray, you put a little water on it, you freeze it, and then you have a lovely little ice cube of fresh herb, equals about a teaspoon. that you can throw in anything. I frequently will take tomato soup and throw in a fresh frozen, but that's an oxymoron, but a frozen cube of fresh herb like basil, this and that, to spike up my tomato soup. And there's just enough water in it to add, and not so much to drown us.
Yeah. Sometimes I've given loaves of bread.
That's so nice to receive from people. If you're not someone who bakes, a little loaf of banana or zucchini or some nut-based bread. And of course, I remind people, in my case, if you bake it with almond flour, I'm really delighted to get it because then I can eat it.
Oh, you know, somebody at our last Vegetarian Society dinner, it was somebody who'd never been to one of our dinners before, but, and this is gluten-free, because what she made was, she made, I think it was chocolate chip, it might have been carob chip cookies, or it was either carob or chocolate chip cookies, and she made them with buckwheat flour. And buckwheat is gluten-free, so there's a gluten-free idea as far as cookie baking. And those cookies were so delicious.
Well, and if anybody's looking for a, now vegetarian and not vegan because it does have butter in it, but a snickerdoodle recipe, I have an excellent gluten-free snickerdoodle recipe.
A snickerdoodle recipe?
That actually tastes like snickerdoodles. I'm a big fan of cinnamon, so it actually tastes like snickerdoodles.
We're down to less than a minute.
Of course we are. Time always goes too fast here.
So let's have you say anything else you wanted to make sure to get in there.
Remember, gifts don't have to take you away. You buy a gift of love, and you give it in love, and you forget all the rest of the stuff that goes with it. That and simplify are the perfect prescription for a holiday where you find joy.
Right, right. You want to enjoy it. You don't want to be stressed out. And don't overdo it with the decorations, you know. You don't need to.
Remind yourself, if you put all those decorations up, you're going to have to dust the darn things.
And put them away afterwards. And yeah. Just do what you've got time for.
And pick the things you like the best of what you do.
Like, don't send Christmas cards to the people that don't send them to you. Just send them to the people you get them from. So.
And in my case, I insist they be long distance as well.
I
don't send local cards anymore, ever.
Oh, no, no.
I will wish you the happiest of holidays, whatever you celebrate. But I'll do it in person.
Well, thank you again for coming on today.
Always my pleasure, Gail. Thank you.
Sure. And I'll see the rest of you in the viewing audience on the next episode in a couple of weeks. Have a happy holiday season.